mouth breather. I'm in the position of having to argue against pretty much every human society since the dawn of time. But so be it. The impulse to make rules and to harshly enforce disobedience of those rules while allowing activities that fall within the rules, even if they're sketchy or questionable or flat out obviously wrong, but not actually prohibited by any law that is currently on the books. This impulse is nothing more or less than a way for people who are, I'm going to say smart in quotation marks, and I'll come back to that in a second. So quote-unquote smart people make up rules so that they can lord it over people who are less smart and punish those people for just being themselves and acting outside of the boundaries that the quote-unquote smart person has laid down. And when I say smart in this context, I don't mean intelligent so much as good at rote memorization. And nobody who has not spent years becoming a lawyer and learning for years upon years how to reference law textbooks and look everything up and keep track of the bizarre logic behind case law. People who live in the United States generally do not know exactly what's in the United States legal code. They just go through their daily lives with a vague idea that certain activities are illegal and certain activities are legal, and they just kind of play it by ear and hope that they don't stumble across some kind of a landmine that has been encoded into the system of laws and left there in order to trap them. And in most cases, ultimately what it comes down to is whether you piss off the wrong person, whether some person who has the power and authority to exploit a law has an incentive to do so at your expense. Like if you annoy the police, they can come up with something to charge you for. If you annoy a lawyer, they can come up with some way of suing you. And it's basically just the legal system gives them an infinite armory of weapons that they can use in order to metaphorically gun down any, and where the police are concerned, sometimes literally gun down anybody who they have decided gives them their casus belli, their justification for enacting violence. So the reason that I am an anarchist is because I believe that if you are going to walk around metaphorically or literally gunning people down, you should at least have the decency to just openly say, well, I'm doing it because I want to. I'm the guy with the gun and what I say goes. If you add this extra layer, this extra step of saying, well, I'm only going to shoot you because you broke the law, then you are just exploiting a petty difference between yourself and the person who, in a lot of cases due to economic factors, does not have the luxury of sitting around and getting to be as familiar with the law as you are. And there are definitely some cases where the person's just an asshole and they don't care who they hurt, but that's not actually any case where the law actually accomplishes justice is a purely coincidental thing, because the law is not about justice. The law is about enforcing the social order, keeping the people who are currently on top continuing to be on top, and just it's not about justice. It's just about maintaining the status quo. And I say that's bullshit, and I say we would be better off just as each person being their own independent wandering warlord who just has I don't like the model of has a closet full of guns and just shoots at anybody who comes within 5 miles of their land. I don't think that's a good model, but I struggle to come up with a better one. I think that the way that we have settled on doing things is too far in the opposite direction from that, and is just as ridiculous as that. If you are forming collectives for mutual cooperation, and you're using a system of laws to keep those collectives functioning, that is not just ripe for corruption, but inherently corrupt in and of itself. You are automatically going to have the worst people float to the top of any such system, and therefore I believe that all such systems just need to go away, and we should just do whatever seems correct on an individual, personal, moment-to-moment basis, because while that's a pretty question, there are a lot of problems with that way of doing things, but in my opinion, every other way is worse. The old saying, democracy is the worst system except for all of the others. I disagree. I think anarchy is the worst system except for all of the others. And it really pisses me off that nobody has actually made a serious effort at making an anarch state actually function. The recent debacle at the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone or whatever, that attempt at a quasi-secessionist protest that almost instantly fell apart. In my opinion, the reason those things always fall apart is because of the individual people who are trying to go about it. There's just not enough competency to go around in cases like that. And so when you say we're going to have a no-rules zone, a bunch of idiots will show up and say, oh, well, there's no rule, then I can punch this guy just because I feel like it. They go to the lowest common denominator instantly because they are the lowest common denominator. They're just low-quality people seizing on an excuse to do shitty things because they have always wanted to do shitty things and just never had the chance. I still firmly believe that there are non-shitty people out there who are capable of making a system like that work. And I have not come up with a good name for it yet, so I continue to call it anarchism, but it's obviously not completely unrestrained, free-for-all anarchism in the style of what happened there, because allowing a crowd to rule, allowing a mob to rule is certainly not, that's not real anarchy. That's collectivist, authoritarian regime. Just because there's 100 people on top instead of one person on top doesn't mean that it isn't still an unequal system. True equality would require, giving everybody all the resources necessary, and because it's hard to come up with better examples, we'll go with the dumb example that I don't like. Give everybody a gun, give everybody lessons necessary in order to maintain the gun, give them the supply of ammo, give them a shack out in the woods or whatever, and a supply of canned food that they can live off of, and let them just do their own thing and have absolute authority to deal with each other as equals, and basically on the equivalent of like an international treaty basis of just like, if you want to go visit your neighbor, you have to convince them not to shoot you just as a approach. So you send out some sort of a flag of truce to say, I'm coming on over, I'm going to be on my best behavior, please allow me to come visit you, and then you go sit down and negotiate whatever the thing is, and if you can't come to an agreement, then you just civilly part ways. There has to be a better way of setting up arrangements like that, where it does not instantly devolve into the kind of stupidity that we have seen from previous attempts at half-assed anarchism. I'm certain that there's a better way, but the limiting factor seems to be intelligence, and as someone who is not as smart as he wants to be in the first place, I understand the struggle there. I understand that it's not easy to come up with solutions like that, because, the smart people are the ones who write the laws for themselves. So it's hard to pull this sort of thing off, but I really think we ought to be able to come up with something better than what has gone before.